Michigan's Colston Loveland is one of the best tight end prospects over the last decade. We're going to talk about that and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I am a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. You know, I got to kick this intro to Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at The Talent Code. You talk to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ, and the other side to this dynamic duo that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, man. I want to start this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, man. Listen, hit that like button. Make sure to comment and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel. DP, we're back in the scouting notebook, man. We took a break for the mock draft Monday. That was a pretty good episode. That was a wild episode, a wild mock draft, but we're back into the scouting notebook, and we're going to start back with those national champions, those Michigan Wolverines with tight end Colston Loveland. Then we're going to go to one of the best edge rushers in this class, Florida transfer to Ole Miss, Princely Umanmielen. And then we're going to finish this thing up with running back Raheim Sanders, who transferred from Arkansas to South Carolina. But DP, before we get started, man, why don't you hit him with our title sponsor?
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. Guys, I said it in the intro. I said it in the cold open. I'm going to say it again. Michigan tight end Colston Loveland, listed at 6'5", 245, 250 pounds, is one of the best tight end prospects that we've seen in the last decade. And I know the numbers aren't going to wow anyone, right? 40 coming off of last season, 2023, 45 receptions, 649 receiving yards, 5 total touchdowns. But the thing for me, Keith, when the notes that I wrote down, this is a guy that in terms of route running, you don't see wasted movement from him. Like really good acceleration. He can decelerate to stop and pivot and work back cross-face of defenders in man-to-man coverage. Talk about a separation creator. He generates separation as a route runner, but that explosiveness, that athleticism, the run after the catch ability, he blocks, he plays inline. He's super versatile in terms of where he aligns. He aligns inline, in the slot, H-back. They go to some pistol sets last year because, of course, having J.J. McCarthy as kind of that dual threat kind of athlete, they went to some pistol sets and they had him at fullback. He lines up all over the place, but he lines a lot in terms of passing, where he lines up in the passing game. That's a lot in the slot too. So he blocks well. He blocks defensive ends, linebackers. He gets out in space as a lead blocker, slice action, the Zorro type of concepts. He'll take, be the lead blocker from backside. He does a lot of good things, but what I really love about him as a receiving threat, the hands, the catch radius, like in the middle of the field too. I think it was a play against Washington in the national championship game. He runs kind of somewhat of a skinny post, a little bit deeper slant, and the ball was high and away, right? Like it wasn't an accurate throw from J.J. McCarthy. He's again, guys closing in on him, makes an incredible grab, just reaches far from his body. He plucks it out of the air, but then the contact balance to take a hit, stay up on his feet, and get 10, 12 yards after the catch. Like, this is a young man that, to me, this is why, for me, I think he's one of the best. The combination of height, weight, athleticism, ball skills, route running. This isn't just a guy that's you can scheme open. Yes, you can scheme him open. They do some tight end leaks and stuff like that, but he can win one-on-one on his own. He can beat man-to-man coverage. He can beat zone coverage. And then he's in an offense that's not a high volume passing offense. Like if you had put him in Washington with Michael Penix, You know what I mean? Or USC with Caleb Williams. JJ McCarthy's a good quarterback, but we know what type of offense Michigan ran. So for me, he's one of the best tight end prospects we're going to see. And I'm going to throw the name out, Keith. I think he's a more agile version of Luke Musgrave.
I was DP. That's so crazy that you brought up that comp, because all I was doing, I was sitting here and I'm listening. I looked at the picture. I'm listening some more. I looked at the picture. I'm listening some more. I said, when he finishes, I'm going to ask him, how does he comp to Luke Musgrave? I promise you that was the one comp I was going to. I'm looking at his body profile and how you described him, and I was like, okay, but continue with, I guess, with the Luke Musgrave and what he offers versus, I guess just the wins and losses versus a Luke Musgrave comparison.
2023, Keith, we were on the field at the Senior Bowl, right? And we saw Luke Musgrave in person. We you know what I mean? Not even just on the field. We saw him in person off the field. Like, yo, that's okay. He's a legit 6'6". Like, you know what I mean? Legit 6'6", 250. But we watched him, how he moved, how explosive he was as that 6'6", 250-pound grown man, right? And the big thing for Luke was the injuries, and we don't have that issue. And perfectly, we won't have those issues with Colston Loveland. But he comps to Luke Musgrave pretty well. I just think that agility-wise, I think he's better with short area quickness, hip fluidity and pivoting, run whip routes and reverse pivots back in the middle of the field. He does some things as a route runner, I think, that Luke that you didn't ask Luke to do, because it's just there was a little bit of rigidness in his hips where I don't see a lot of that when it comes down to Colston Loveland. Okay,
no, I like that, and so I want to ask. Luke was a second round. He was a second round tight end. Do you believe that Colston is a first round guy from what you've seen thus far?
Absolutely, 100%. I do, and and it's not, guys. I promise you, this is not my cup of tea. I don't do hot takes. I truly believe that if he's featured as, like, you know how we saw Brock Bowers before he got hurt, how he was featured, during Georgia's tenure, how they gave the ball to him, they fed him. He was the number one wide receiver, right? Even with Adonai Mitchell and all the other athletes at receiver, they fed him the ball. If Colston Loveland is fed the ball like that, he's going to be in that Brock Bowers tier, because what would Brock Bowers elite at? He was the run after catch ability, right? That's a similar, but it's a bigger body, bigger profile in terms of Colston Loveland. The explosiveness, the run after catch, the dynamic run after catch ability to not only just catch the ball in the middle of the field, but stiff arm a guy and be physical, but also then take it 15, 20 yards upfield and get those crucial yards at the catch. I think he has every bit of the making to be a dominant tight end in the NFL and in college football if he's given the actual targets, and I don't know how that's going to look like in this passing offense.
Well, DP, I'm not going to let you off that easily, man. I'm not going to let you off that easy. So I need to know who you're taking. Brock Bowers, because we know you like Brock, right? But he wasn't a generational. He wasn't the you didn't feel like he was a rare prospect, right? So, and I hear in your voice and your tone and in the evaluation that you like Colston Loveland. So I want to ask, who are you taking? Brock Bowers or Colston Loveland?
Which is extremely tough because Brock was an elite prospect. And I also think Colston is an elite prospect. I would take Colston, though, because to me, watching, don't get me wrong, Brock battles but he'll battle in run blocking and stuff like that. What have I always said? I don't want Brock blocking a lot of defensive ends. I think he's more of a space blocker, second level, third level lead blocker, not handling those big boys in the trenches. I think Colston can absolutely handle that type. And I honestly think that Colston still has some growing in his body that he can do in terms of muscle mass and body mass. I think he can actually get a little bit bigger and even stronger to where that George Kittle comp we threw out there for Brock, that George Kittle comp can actually be used for Colston Loveland at the same time, in my opinion, because I think in terms he pass protects, run blocks, all that stuff. But then for me, the catch radius, the athleticism, all of that stuff is similar, but I'm getting a bigger package, 6'5", 245. I would probably lean Colston because I think the upside for both is high. I just think with Colston's physical ability, it's higher.
Okay, cool. Now I had to put you on the spot to get this thing started. DP up next, man. We're going to Ole Miss hotty toddy. Yes, we're going to scout edge rusher Princely Umanmielen to see if he's one of the best edge rushers in this 2025 NFL draft class.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Summertime means baseball, the NBA Finals, and so much more. And you can bet it all on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 at your disposal that you can use to bet on everything from Finals MVP to who's going to hit one out of the ballpark. And on the FanDuel Sportsbook app right now, you're talking about betting odds and things you can bet on. Heisman betting. You have Carson Beck at plus 750. And then you have Jalen Miro at plus 1500. Guys, you can go ahead and start making your bets right now. Okay, so visit fanduel.com/locked-on and add a big win to your summer bucket list. Visit fanduel.com/locked-on and add a big win to your summer bucket list. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Former Gator edge rusher going to Ole Miss, Princely Umanmielen. Keith, when you turned on the tape to see this young man who we thought was, I'm pretty sure we felt like he was going to come out this past draft, but he went back to school and now he's transferred to play for Lane Kiffin. How good is he? How good can he be? Because statistically, Keith, he had a pretty good season last year. 39 tackles, 68 total pressures and hurries combined, 7 sacks on the season. But when you looked at the tape, is he a true edge? Like, is he a stand-up edge? What kind of pass rusher or defensive player are teams getting?
Yeah, definitely. So you want to ask how good is he? He's very talented, DP, and he's very talented because he is a high level athlete at the edge rusher position. Now, do I feel like he has the combination of athleticism, like that rare combination what we've seen from the Kayvon Thibodeau's and Jermaine Johnsons and the Aiden Hutchinsons? I don't think it's of that caliber when you're talking about the ability to convert speed to power in those type of situations, right? But when you look at him, he is a very fluid and smooth athlete, and I think that's where you buy in at, right? Because he is a good athlete. He's very smooth. He's very fluid in what he can do. And the most impressive thing is his ability to bend the edge, right? When he wins and wins clean, it is a really good situation for Princely Umanmielen. So I looked at Princely and I gave him, I'm like, hey, this is a date. I think he's entrenched as a day 2 guy, but I think the ceiling can go up. And then I compare him to another edge rusher, right, who I went over in the SEC, Tennessee edge rusher, James Pearce. And I believe that he has more, I think he's more refined right now. Talking about Princely Umanmielen, a little bit more experienced in his bag. And so they're probably going to come in close entering the season, right? And I think it's probably just going to really be dependent on who has the better season out of these two SEC guys. But I'll tell you this, it's just crazy scouting now, DP, because with this transfer portal, it's hard to keep up with these guys, right? You got guys all over the place. I had to jump on 247 and like make sure, like, hey, you're still at this school, right? Because they're all over the place. But I do like the skill set that Princely offered. I thought if he'd have came out this past year, especially if you think about after the first 2-ish round, there's kind of a drop off for edge rusher. So I thought if you really looked at the edge rusher class, he probably could have entrenched himself as a back end of the second round type guy. Maybe he's going for being a first round guy. And then guess what? We talk about transfers. They have big boy Walter Nolan, right? So he's going to be able to take up and eat up some of those double teams. And that's going to be a dynamic 1-2 punch for these guys. So I expect Princely can get some one-on-ones. He's a very clean winner. Ole Miss is going to score some points. So I think there's an opportunity for him. If he's put in the right situations, there's an opportunity for him to be a double-digit sack guy. Now, he has to be put on the edges. I don't know if you feel the same way, DP, but when you watch some of these edge rushers and then these defenses, they consistently reduce these guys inside. And I'm like, that's not where they're supposed to be, right? Like, that's not where they're supposed to be. So we'll see. But I do like Princely Umanmielen. I think that there is a ceiling for him to touch double-digit sacks.
No, and you brought up James Pearce as a guy who's like, he has more of the hype coming in than a Princely does. But like you said, like Princely is more refined, and I really, when I watched, when I've watched him, I did like how he used his hands, where his hand placement was,
Mhm.
to be able to deconstruct blocks, holding up at the point. One of the big things we talked about with Pearce was, okay, how are you going to handle the run game? I didn't feel like I had any worries walking away from Princely on the edge against the run. Granted,
Yeah.
Princely's listed at 6'5", 255. He's a little bit bigger than James, right? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But at the same time, and he's you see it from his photos and see him on the field, he's well filled in terms of his body type, his muscle mass, his body mass. Like he can play in the trenches, play well, play strong. But again, having the ability to use your hands, I think that, and the point you made about this past draft, yeah, after like the second round, it was a
And maybe
clear drop off.
into the second round, because I know you were critical of who was it? The Atlanta Falcons not getting the edge
Oh
rusher, right? Like
yeah, yeah.
he could have been a guy to help them. And I believe the Falcons, did they have 2 second-round picks? Was that
Yeah, they went
the
Rook and not Braylon Trice. They went Rook and
and
Brandon
Brandon
Dorless.
Dorless? And then I think the Commanders was another team that had 2 second-round picks. I
Yep,
know they
and they
went
picked Newton,
Yeah,
Jerzon.
I know they picked Jerzon Newton for sure. So you could have seen him being a top 50 prospect in this past draft,
Oh,
just
100%.
because of the lack of edge rushers. So we'll see. And like you said, maybe he's swinging for that first round fence, right? And being like, hey, I want to walk out here on top. But definitely there's ability there. It's just a matter of putting him in the right situations. Him transferring to Florida to Ole Miss. I would buy stock right now
Yeah.
into Ole Miss being a playoff team just because of the transfers they brought in, and then the consistency as far as them bringing Jackson Dart back one more year to pair with some of those playmakers. And the play caller, Mr. Lane Train himself. So good situation right there for Princely.
No, 100%. And like for me, Keith, I think for the question I have for you is, do you feel like is he one of those, in your opinion, one of those edge rushers who, he's just a versatile fit heading into the NFL? He can play in an even front, odd front. Is he stand-up 3-4 edge rusher? Is he a true base and defensive end, like 4-down defensive end? 6'5", 255, almost 260. Like he looks like he has the look of that standard base defensive end that can win right outside shade of the tackle. You know what I mean? But he also has that athleticism where it's like, I don't think I mind him sending up.
Yeah, so how do I want to best put this? Is that he can play defensive end in either scheme. I mean, he could be a 4-3 hand in the ground guy defensive end, and he can be the stand-up edge rusher, right? Depending, if you have any type of 3-4 type of situation. I like him best as a stand-up edge rusher when you talk about the run game, because I think both of them, obviously, you're talking about alignments, he's lined up outside the offensive tackle, but I feel though when you're in that stand-up position, those guys that may not be as strong as the point of attack, they can win with better angles, right? And because they can see better, so they can run to a spot and try to set the edge and then just kind of hold on. And I think he's one of those guys. Like, are you gonna get the brute strength to feel like this guy is a heavy-handed, you know what I'm saying, jolt you back type of player? Nah, you're not gonna get that. But I think he's strong enough to be able to set an edge. But I would like him better as a 3-4 outside linebacker. And he can drop in coverage also. He's fluid enough in space.
Two names came to mind, and I wanted to get your real quick before we transition. Get your opinion on them in terms of like style, kind of stylistic pro comps. Matthew Judon. Now, measurements is a little different. He's listed at 6'5", 255. Matthew Judon's listed at 6'3", 265, 270. And then Green Bay Packers edge rusher, I think he used to be with the Commanders, Preston Smith.
So both of those guys, I feel like they have a little bit more, and I'm not as familiar with Preston, right? But Matthew Judon, I've watched a decent amount with the Patriots. I think those guys are a little bit more heavy-handed, like they're a little bit more rugged. I want to paint the picture of Princely being a smooth, fluid athlete, right? That if he can take you in space and beat you, that's more of his game. So I'm trying to, it's tough. I'm trying to come up with a comp real quick because I see obviously the weight, right? And you're trying to find in that bracket of, hey, how does the weight transfer to? Is it 255, 260? But if you told me he was 250 on a dot, I would be like, okay, kind of picture more of that when you're talking about in context of his game, because he's going to want to win with athleticism. He has different hand combat moves, but you're not going to get that physical. You're not going to feel that like physical, heavy-handed type of presence for him. But he like I said, he can hold up against the run and do his job and handle his assignment. So I'm gonna come back to that with a different draft comp, with some comps to try to figure it out. I just, with both of those guys, I respect their physical presence, right? You're talking
Power,
about adding power and things like that. And I think Princely, if you're looking, that's why I brought up the Falcons, because they're looking for like one of those just pure edge rushers, and he can fit in that type of situation really good. But
He
go ahead.
sounds like a guy that, like, especially if you think about third, it's like 3rd and 10, 3rd and 8. You widen him out
Yeah.
and pull that tackle one-on-one on the island and allow him to to have that two-way type of go. I mean, hey, NFC South, NFC North teams, better keep him away from Detroit. That's the only thing I know.
You know who
You know what I'm saying?
yeah, he would be really good in that situation too, to be opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. I have to get eyes on, and sometimes we do these, go back and watch these guys, but the 1-2 punch that Shane Ray was for a minute.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of thinking maybe somewhere in context of that, right? When you talk about career trajectory, some really good years mixed in with some okay years, mixed in with some good years, right? So I think it's somewhere in there, but we'll definitely come back to when we can rank these edge rushers. When we get towards the deep parts of the summer, right? When it's July and it's real hot outside. But DP, man, we gotta talk about this running back, man. Running back Raheim Sanders, yes, the Arkansas transfer. I told you that transfer portal is crazy because now he's in South Carolina. And we're going to talk about what is his fit, right? What are the expectations in 2024 as a draft prospect?
Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot, for being our everydayers. Former Arkansas Razorback running back, now South Carolina Gamecock Raheim Sanders, listed as 6'2", 242 pounds, and 2023. Keith, I even remember we did a segment, in the season we have our segment typically on Fridays. It's like, where you at? And he was one of the guys we talked about. It was like, man, coming off of 2022, where he was dominant in 2022. It's like, man, where is Raheim Sanders? Only 62 carries, 209 rush yards, and only, I believe, 1 rushing touchdown on the season. Two. Sorry, he had two rushing touchdowns. Everything was down. Carries, even, receptions from the year, because the year before, 222 carries, 1,400 yards, and 10 touchdowns. Keith, when you looked at his tape, because I think he battled some injuries last year with Arkansas and everything, he did not look like the same guy he did in 2022, even when he was on the field.
Yeah, and that's why I was going to start at. So DP, a huge part, and I just wrote up his report and did the evaluation on him. So I'm looking at this guy, and first off, I had to do the research, right? I'm like, to go from 200 carries to 60 is like, what's going on? And it's not like Arkansas has Darren McFadden, you know what I'm saying, back there, and that's why he lost his reps, right? So he was injured for a large portion of the season. I think he only played 5 or 6 games the entire year. And then I watched the games that he even played, DP. Half of those games, probably even more than half, probably if he played 5 games, 3, or if he played 6, it was 4 games. He was injured, DP. He was just not healthy. And I want to say this, that the body profile, it looked like he put on weight, and not in a good way. It looked like 2022, he was a chiseled 218. Looked like 2023, he was 230 something. And it affected him in so many different ways. And so even when I wrote his draft report, DP, it was more of a comparison, right, of 2022 versus 2023, right? And how do you get back to the 2022 version of yourself? Because you're talking about a guy, I believe he was an all SEC performer. I can't remember if it was first, second, or third team, but he was an all SEC performance. So it was just so evident on film, the start-stop ability, the lateral agility, the explosiveness. That's what you got out of him in 2022. In 2023, he looked strictly to be an in-between the tackles runner, right? And not even, because what I wanted to do was leave out of there and say, if you're going to be an in-between the tackles runner, hey, 235, 6'2", go be AJ Dillon, right? But I didn't even see that part of it. Just because I really believe if I had to put, he was hurt, he was injured, and there was I think something about a labrum, I believe. But I would not be surprised if it was a lower body injury. So if you're talking about projecting him forward and what it could be, I would simply want to call him like, hey man, you healthy this year? How you feeling? Like, you know what I'm saying? You're taking care of your body. What's your weight at? I think him being in the South Carolina program, he can be a very good thing for South Carolina as long as he's the best version of himself. If not, he's a back that's going to run in between the tackles, pick up some short yardage, things like that. So I had a tough time grading him simply because the contrast between 2022 and 2023, as far as it looked, like I said, it looked like he picked up weight, looked like he was injured. The ability to accelerate, decelerate was not there. The explosiveness in the open field. He still had that fighter mentality to him, right? You know, just those back, you know, he's going to fight for the extra yardage and stuff like that. You could just tell it was just not there for him on film in 2023. So as a product, like, give him a late fourth, maybe a fifth round. And that's what optimism that he's healthy. Because if he's not healthy and he's the same exact version, DP, he's going to be a guy that is going to he's going to have to fight to get drafted in day 3. If he's that version of himself again in 2023, and hopefully he's not. Hopefully he's healthy, he's ready to rock and roll. I want to do some more research because I wonder why he transferred, right? Like and maybe it's the scheme, because I think they hired Bobby Petrino this offseason. Maybe he feel like he's not going to get the football, and maybe that's why he
lost his quarterback too, KJ Jefferson.
Yeah, KJ left too. I'm surprised he didn't just go with KJ to UCF, right? Because you know Gus Malzahn is going to run the football. And I look at that situation.
They already have a star back in RJ Harvey because he.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. So that's going to be tough.
I get it.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough situation. But it worried me just a little bit for his draft stock, just knowing Spencer Rattler, right, and him going to South Carolina, and how him going there didn't necessarily help him either as far as high level reps. So that's Raheim Sanders. I think you kind of got to wait. It's a wait and see. We're in a holding pattern a little bit with Raheim.
I think with South Carolina, you know, and that was one of the takeaways I remember writing down, looking at, you know, when I was studying Spence, is that the run blocking was pretty solid, right? Like the run blocking was solid. It was just the fact they couldn't pass protect. So you tell them to retreat and, you know, get on their heels. It was like, yeah, it's a no-go when they were able to just be physical and go forward. You know, they did some things to open some running lanes in the run game. I think for him, seeing, like you said, to see that he's listed at 242, you know what I mean? Like that's alarming. But I think this is the arc I want to see from him. I remember Ramondre Stevenson when he was at Oklahoma. He was 246. He dropped 20 pounds going into the Senior Bowl. He was running routes. He was explosive, all the agile, everything. And he's kept that weight down too. He's around 227. I think even right now, even with the Patriots, if he can drop that weight back down, talking about Raheim Sanders, and get back to that, because he was one of the best home run hitters in 2022 at the running back position. Even being, like you said, big, chiseled, muscular. If he got past the line of scrimmage, if you did not stop him before he got to the sideline, once that stride opened up, he was housing runs 60, 70, 80 yards. So for me, it's like, can I get you on that Raheim? I mean, that Ramondre, these R's are messing me up. Can I get you on that Ramondre Stevenson type of arc just for the season, not just for the, like, going into the Senior Bowl of 2025? No, can we get you down, and can you be 225, 227, 220, still have that big, strong, burly build, and still be a physical between the tackles runner? But let's get that juice back. Let's get, man, he had some outstanding runs in 2022. We need that guy back.
He looked like,
remember last year I was saying the 2024 running back class was going to be better than 2023, and then these guys just decided to fall off the face of the earth and not look crazy.
DP. Yeah, I forgot you said that.
I'll own that. I blame him, but I'll own it.
I appreciate you being honest about that, because I said
that.
You know how that's
I was like, man,
Listen,
Raheim Sanders,
hopefully nobody
Travion.
comes out. I was just watching on YouTube. How sometimes they go like the worst of Stephen A. Smith, the worst of Skip Bayless. So hopefully nobody makes a hit real DP. I forgot that was even a thing,
I said
man.
that.
But
I absolutely said that.
I appreciate you standing on business with that one and bringing that back up. But it is what it is, right? All we could do is scout and then wish for the best at the end of the
You're
day.
not
But
going to bet 1,000, baby. You can't bet
not
1,000.
gonna bet 1,000, man. Not gonna bet 1,000. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to say shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Hit that like button, make sure to comment, and don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel at the Locked On NFL Draft. DP, listen, man, I thought that was a really good show. Coming back with the scouting notebook again tomorrow. Or we have a couple more intriguing prospects. We may have a couple quarterbacks, a couple wide receivers. Might be a playmaker edition of the scouting notebook tomorrow. But listen, man, I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Honest himself, man. He's going to stand on business. Mr. Honest himself, Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we always like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shot for being our everydays. And like he said, we got some more big name prospects to get through. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.